Hi, and welcome to another Floral Share video. In today's workshop, I'd like to discuss the element of balance. You might ask yourself, why is balance so important in a flower arrangement? It's what it gives your pieces stability. In fact, it's synonymous with the word balance. Balance has a couple of different components to it. There's the physical aspect of balance, and then there is the visual aspect of balance. For physical, we're talking about the proportion and overall size and weight of your arrangement. Meaning, is the vase the appropriate size for the amount of flowers that you want to put in it? You don't want to create a situation where your flowers look like a lollipop with a tiny, skinny little vase and a lot of flowers. That's where that physical balance comes in. Now with visual, there's two different components with that one. There is symmetrical balance, and then there is an asymmetrical balance. Now you've seen plenty of symmetrical arrangements through this series. Centerpieces, our triangle arrangements, and even the square one that we just did. You know, they mirror each other on either side. And as humans, we like that. We have two eyes, two ears, two arms. You get what I mean? Well, it's the same thing. We like the way that looks. That feels secure to us. But it's not terribly interesting. In fact, it can be rather boring. So that's where we look to an asymmetrical balance to give us motion and creativity and harmony, like we'd find out in nature, like on a walk. What I want to show you today is a classic dozen roses, but an asymmetrically balanced arrangement. All right, let's get started on an asymmetrically balanced arrangement. We don't have too many elements that we're going to be using with this arrangement. I have some beautiful spiral eucalyptus. This is going to be our base to this arrangement. And then I have these beautiful pink, I believe the name is Rosalind rose. Just gorgeous. Now I've let these sit out for a couple of days to open up. I want them to have very much of a garden feel. To begin with, I'm going to start with our eucalyptus. I'm going to put some in our hands, and what I'm going to do is create like a little cage, if you will. Okay. So all I'm going to do is make a little spiral at first, and then I'm going to add some more pieces in. So let me measure. Okay, right about here. I love this pyramid vase. I think it's just kind of contemporary, really kind of interesting. All right. And now what I'm going to do is kind of do a little offside. So we're going to be taller on this side and a little bit heavier with our flowers on this side. So when we make a cage of our flowers, what we're doing is making like a little crisscross. And what that's going to do is actually hold our flowers when we introduce them to the arrangement. And I might end up having to cut some of these down eventually, but let's start adding some roses to this. I'm going to start out with the base right down here. I want it to be nice and heavy. This is very much of a free form style. He's getting ready to go. That one right there. It's not doing what I want him to do. Okay, I'm going to put him in later. So what I'm going to do is just build one on top of the other. And I do want this on all sides, so we're going to do some in the back over here too. So the physical proportion on this one is that we want to make sure this part of the arrangement is not too heavy for the bottom part. We want it to look like it's not going to tip over, that it's not going to spill over on us. And that is really the main component of balance, is that stability. Okay, now we can start building some height over on this side. And then I'm going to give it a little bit more weight down here. And it's almost kind of like if you think about your scales, you know, like weights and measure scales, that if you had one giant thing on this side, but you had lots of little things on this side, the weight would still balance it out. And that's what you're looking for with an asymmetrical arrangement, that even though you might be bigger on this side, you want this to feel that it is still harmonious. Okay, I'm not quite done. I need to give this a little spin. Yeah. Trying to do stuff backwards creates a little bit of a challenge for me sometimes. Now I want that guy that wasn't behaving. He needs to go back over here to create that height. All right, so he wasn't behaving. He wasn't staying where I wanted him to. The cage wasn't quite locked in enough with other flowers. All right, so I still have one more. Got this little hole right down here. And then I have some other elements that I want to introduce, because just a dozen roses is not quite enough. Let's see. Yeah, let's bring it back over here. So I wanted to add an additional element to this, and I didn't want just your average baby's breath. Baby's breath is sweet and it's very traditional, but I wanted to add something that was a little bit more contemporary and was going to continue to give us some more movement. And what I have are these fabulous ranunculus. They're just so hot right now. And I liked this kind of tone on tone, a monochromatic feel to it. I just thought it was very, very contemporary. We're going to still continue to build here and go along this kind of curved movement. I love this kind of free form direction that a lot of our arrangements are going in. And it just kind of mimics a little bit more of what you would see in nature. Look at all these little entrails. Oh, these are little buds and they're wonderful, and I like to keep every single one of them. Oh yeah, look how that really is now, that asymmetrical form, giving you your eye a little place to follow along. Wonderful. Let's bring some over in through here. Now I don't want it to be the same height. We definitely want to have that back and forth flow. Let's bring something down in through here. So I think you've heard me talk about the 1.5 times rule. That's really something that it's one of those things that kind of helps keep you in check with your balance and keeping things appropriately sized. So what you're looking for is to have your arrangement be roughly 1.5 times the height and or width of the container that you're using. And then that way it doesn't feel like you're going to spill over. And you know I can't leave well enough alone. I still want a couple more greens in this, and then we're going to be done. Okay guys, you know how much of a forager I am. And I have this incredible scented geranium in the pots in my front porch. And oh my God, it smells so delicious. It smells very lemony, just wonderful. And I love the contrast in color that this is going to give. Love it, love it, love it. Let's bring another one down in through here. Very nice. And what this is doing is giving me a little bit more texture, filling in without overwhelming anything. And of course, I can't do anything without my trusty Kimberly fern. You know it's going to be in just about everything I can do because I love it so much. I love it when it has its little curls. I'd love to embrace that. And I think, let's do something, I'm going to do the back here a little bit more. I'll give you a show. All right, just 2 more and we are going to be done. Can you believe how fast this arrangement went together? And one final little spin for me to see where my last guy goes. It's got to go down here. It just had a hole down in there that needed to be filled, and I wanted to continue that line. As you can see, what that did now was create that line that went all the way down and through there, and have helped keep that free form, but also had that nice weight over here with the height up over here. All right, let me clean up and then I'll come back for my final thoughts. So I think this very simple yet incredibly modern and elegant arrangement just turned out to be so beautiful, and I think it's a lovely example of an asymmetrically balanced arrangement. Now I do have plans to do another one, something that's a little bit more sophisticated. Thinking about maybe doing a funeral work. If you'd like to see that, leave a comment, let me know. And I have been so excited to hear where everybody's watching from. That's been wonderful. I love how it's just, we're everywhere, of course, because YouTube is everywhere. Let's talk money for a second. A dozen roses typically can go for about $75. That's including baby's breath. Now with the addition of ranunculus, we're probably looking somewhere in the nature of maybe $100. It always surprises me because I remember back in the day, you can get a dozen roses for, I have to laugh at myself. Look at this old guy. He's hanging out right here. Missed the vase entirely. Happens more often than I'd like to admit. Let me give that a quick fix. Okay. So, yeah, I remember back in the old days where, a dozen roses, could do that for 40 bucks. Not anymore. Anyway, I love it. I think it's beautiful, easy to do. I would love to see your examples of this asymmetrical arrangement. If you tag me on Instagram, I can't wait to see that. All right, until next time, guys. See ya.